Everyone's excited to see what's going to happen next, huh? Welcome in, my men. Disappear. We got 20 minutes till the chat starts. Here we go. Here we go. Repping the tank today, fellas. Going to Biggie, Marco, Fred, G-Stacks. What's up, everybody? What's up, fellas? Yo, 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 says Fred. Yo, yo, yo to you as well. Have they not told this whole time? They have not been entertained. G-Stacks, I'll get your packs of gum in no time, by the way. In no time. So, how much change we think's coming, fellas? How much change you think's coming? Do you think a bunch of buffs are coming in, or do you think what do you think's gonna happen? Nerfs to the Barb and Sorcerer, says Bit. Nice. I doubt that a lot. A lot. But yeah, we'll see what happens then. Dude, there's no way that would happen. I don't think there's going to be a single nerf at all today. Nothing, I guarantee you. Wearing the chair tank. I don't have that chair anymore. I should go get it, huh? To where the red stripes on the chair just go right into the tank, right? Yeah, this was I actually went to the gym shockingly enough today and came home and didn't take a shower yet. Don't worry about it though, fellas. Kaylor J over here. I think they're going to give us the runaround as usual, you say. Runaround as usual. All right. I mean, I think they're going to do what they can to make people happy, but I don't know that they're really... What are they going to do today? What are they going to do today? I'm trying to think what I really think, right? I think they'll do a few little things that will be good, but people won't be happy enough with it, is what I think is going to happen. We'll see. Fred sitting in the office rebuilding a vacuum pump. Nice, nice. Got the 18 minutes till the live stream here. We'll see what's up. We'll see what's up. Cody B says Druid using more potions than normal. Missing some armor for sure. Yeah. Part of what I think though, too, I think going from having the Druid like into the Paragon board, the Druid like gets so much power, so much survivability and from stuff from the Paragon board, so it's pretty crazy. That's kind of what I think. I'm almost trying to like temper, like I gotta remember once I get into like the third Paragon board and all these different points, I think it's gonna be a lot better. But oh, Tiny Cat, what's going on? What's up, Tiny Cat, the littlest of cats? And Cody B comes in with the Doom Scoots with the teeny cats on it. Haha, what's up, my dude? Good thing you don't have smell-o-vision. I don't stink that bad. I'll tell you what, as soon as I'm done showering, or done streaming, I'll take a shower. There you go. Master Pibb says they better add an Enigma. Enigma or nothing. Defer to Exile Con. So like BlizzCon you're talking about, Doug? That is kind of coming up pretty soon, ain't it? Yeah, I don't know. Slippery Stacks, it still needs minion buffs. After season 1, they'll be kind of trash again. I seen a quick build or just a super quick video from Rob. I don't know if you guys know Rob. He like streams like 15 hours a day kind of guy. He had a minion Necromancer build, and they like killed Uber Lilith in like, you know, like 5 shots total. You know, the way that one heart, it like builds up that barber heart, I guess, or whatever it's called, the barber one. So why are the emotes so big? I don't know. They look normal. Wait, are the emotes a little bigger than normal, or I don't know. The emotes are bigger today. I don't know. Maybe YouTube made all the emotes slightly bigger. Maybe people are like, they're too small. Now you can see Sweet Phil. Even better. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they made him a little bigger. I mean, I'm not mad about it. A little bigger means you can see a little bit more detail, right? So Biggie says seems the same size to you. Maybe y'all just zoomed in a little bit, huh? Adra says early game buffs for the Druid. eh, I think the Druid's fine. I think they should leave the Druid alone. I think the Rogue should be left alone. We'll see what happens. Sosa said he had no idea this was happening if it wasn't for my stream. Well, now you know what's happening. If not, you would have had to wait and find out later. Fred says the emotes are way more entertaining when they're big enough you can really see them good. There you go. I agree. That's what I was kind of getting at. Bigger's always better, right, fellas? Slippery, yeah, the Barber Heart and Bone Prison makes minions do like 300 million damage. Yeah, I didn't pay attention, like I didn't stick around long enough to get the full gist, but I was just like, oh, there you go. Yep. Nice. Yeah, maybe Fred said he's on mobile. Bit says on PC they look the same size, so maybe they bumped them up on mobile, huh? Could be. Very interesting, very interesting. 14 more minutes. A lot of emote chitter chatter. Yeah, I mean, I could imagine on phones. I don't do a lot of. Pretty much, if I watch streams, I'm like the opposite of Fred. Fred said if he ever does, it's on mobile. I used to be back when it was like I was doing factory work, you know, right? But now the only time I ever watch streams is if I'm like in the off chance that I'm editing video that I don't need to hear, and then I'll put a stream on the other monitor or something. Or every once in a while when I'm playing off stream, which is like usually if I ever play off stream, it's like, oh, here comes a world boss. I hop on for 3 minutes, take out the boss, and then I go back to doing what I was doing. They better hurry up. You actually have service on the hilltop for a chance. Nice. Yeah, because let's see, Tiny K, you drive truck, right? Trying to remember. Trying to remember. I think that's what it was. This thing's like a steel trap up here, fellas. Steel trap. Can't get out of it. Once I remember something. Once I hear something, I never forget. It'd be sick if they tell us more about the new content they teased last Campfire. What did they tease last Campfire? What, a new world boss or two, I think. Some like a mid-level, what did they call it? Like an Uber Lilith, but at like 80 or something, right? Didn't they tease something along those lines? I believe. It's a good point, Slippery. I would have to guess they're gonna bring something up. Oh, Tiny Cat Oiled Field. Okay, yeah. Must have the wrong person then. It's a rusty, super old steel trap. Tier 5 today, says Brawl. I doubt that. I think tier 5. That's too early and it's too big. I think people would lose their minds if they brought out World Tier 5 right now. I think. We'll have to see. Don't forget, fellas, hit that like button. And I mean, obviously, anybody new in here over on YouTube probably subscribed up already, because you can't chat on YouTube unless you're subscribed. But make sure you guys hit that like button for me, fellas. Bear Lion says that's probably what they need. When I said that's probably too big, that's kind of the thing that crossed my mind also, Bear Lion. That I was like, boy, that would bring some hype. That'd make people, like, it'd give some people, like, at least, like, hope of more, like, stuff after they grind the game, like Insanity. That they could, you know, have that to do. So maybe. Bulbasaur, yo! Yo. Slippery says a few things. One of them was a whole new game mode for more density. A new game mode. I guess I must have missed that part, huh? Somehow, or forgot. I'm not sure. New game mode, more density. What's up from Costa Rica? Marco, welcome in. Marco Perez. Pibs, I feel like items are sometimes as hard to find as in D2, but without the benefit of trading whatever we find, I'm still confused as to why we can't give stuff like D3 to party members. Yeah, it's just easier not to just have no, like, this is account bound, boom, nothing. It's probably just literally easier. Probably just easier is why they have it that way. Jose, the count number of hardcore players. You want to see how many hardcore players there are, Jose Duarte? Or I'm not sure what you mean by that. I don't know much about hardcore, so maybe that would make sense to regular hardcore players, that comment, but I'm not sure what you mean by that one. Bear Alliance. Oh, yeah, then I do know what you're talking about. Yeah, I forget who mentioned it about the game mode with more density. They did say they were upping density, what, in Helltides and in dungeons, I believe. They did mention something about that, but I don't know when they said they were doing that, if it was instant, if it was going to be later. I can't remember offhand. This thing, steel trap, but it's very rusty old steel trap. So Rawl says we still need the one hype news, one quality of life fix. Love to the Barb and Sorceress. So yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with that, right? Hi from Bogdan, level 42 Druid. Hi from Romania. What's going on? My man. We got 9 minutes. They're going to come chat it up, let us know what's new. I nailed it. Fairline said Nightmare Dungeons and Helltides. I nailed it. I actually remembered something. No way they do a new act. They aren't fixing fire or resistances for this season, says Fred. Yeah. The resistances thing. Boy. Still, I kind of get it. I know that's got to be something in the actual game files they got to change, and because it's a console game and everyone plays together, they have to, what is it? Is it a 30 or 60 day approval process for applying a patch for consoles or something along those lines? And I know that's the reason why that stuff's not getting changed, but yeah. What'd you miss, G-Stacks? I must have missed that. Steve says D4 is only going to be complete when they give us the Ogre axe. Ogre. I just made a video today. I just rendered it out, but I didn't make the thumbnail or nothing or upload it, where it features a particular type of Ogre axe. So wait for that one later. It's a D2 video, but Kaylor J over on Twitch says D4 makes him miss D2. He might have to switch back soon. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, D2R, great game. Amazing game. I wouldn't blame anybody for going back to that, right? My trap has a hole in it, 8-ball. Yeah, I think so. It's a very unreliable trap. It's a steel trap, so it's definitely in there. Corey says resistance is not for another 3 months. Yeah, this is true. This is true. We'll have to see. We'll have to see how this all goes. Someone said roll back all the nerfs by 50%. Yeah, I think that'd be all right. Probably. It's hard to think of everything that got nerfed or whatnot. Some of it wasn't bad. I can't remember what exactly it is, but does the smart loot reduce your enjoyment of D4? It's hard. It's so hard to say, because if you do no trading, you almost need to have smart loot so that almost all the items that drop are for you. Because man, like, yeah, if you find a D-web and you can't trade it for a Griffin's, or if you find a, you know, I don't know, like an example from D2, if you find some rune that you don't need, you find an Ohm rune, you don't need another Ohm rune, but you need to trade that Ohm rune for some, you know, like, so you almost, if you have it set the game the way that it is, you almost have to have smart loot, right? I think. I don't know. What would be your fondest wish for the announcement today? Boy, I'm really not sure. I'm not sure at all. I'm really not sure at all. I guess my main thing, and this might sound cop out or like whatever, like really riding the fence here, Phil, but sitting on the fence. I just want them to do something to make everybody happy, to be perfectly honest. I've been really just like getting annoyed, but not from D4, but in my entire life. Negativity from anywhere. I mentally am like getting wore out, my old age, I guess. I just want I want whatever's going to make as many people happy as possible. Cody B said Dobrunsky's stream today is taking a break from YouTube and D2. He grinded too hard and got burnt out from D2, you say, huh? Yeah, he was talking about that like for a while. I know that because he started D2 like a year or two before I did, or maybe even 3. I don't even know, on YouTube. So I get it. And plus, I mean, he obviously works a ton too. I'm assuming anyways. So I know he works full time still and stuff. So Slippery asked, is Blizzard considering runes for D4? I bet you they are, but they're looking at that for like a seasons down the road, because that's a thing that they'll have to add in a patch. Like I said, takes months for the consoles to approve it, so it's like ridiculous, you know. Shred should get a flat damage increase. You get that it's a mass damage was a bug, but the drop off was huge. It's one of those things that like once you, and I mentioned this a little bit ago, Pib, once you get into the Paragon board, like Shred isn't that great. My Shred Druid is just starting to get good. Now that I have all the most of the aspects I need, I'm getting into the Paragon board a little bit. Once you get like, you got the main board, and then you get 2 more boards, Paragon boards, boom, your Shred Druid is nasty AF. Just nasty. But I haven't got there yet. The one where you get resource after kill, there's like 4 nodes. It's like 1 resource after kill, 1 resource after kill, 1 resource after kill, and then there's a rare node, 2 resources after kill. And when you get that, and then you get all these plus 10% crit strike damage when you're in werewolf skill, 10% core skill damage, 10% werewolf core skill damage, like all these all over the place, you're just slapping stuff down. So loot filter, yeah, Jay, I would be on board with the loot filter. I'm not gonna lie. Not going to lie. James says they need to drop rune words. Need to, huh? That'd be pretty wild if they came out with that today. I wouldn't get your hopes up for that. It would be wild. People would be, that'd be some hype. That'd be some hype. Sosa says the rune words. Yeah, that's the thing you guys got to remember. Talking a little too fast here. Remember as well. No item can have more than 2 sockets. So the rune word system at most would be 2 runes. And I think, what is there? There's 2-handed weapons, armor, and what, pants can have 2 sockets, and that's it. So, like, what is this going to be? What is that system really going to be, right? Rawl says he wants to make a Magic Find character to gear other builds. Yeah, with the if things would be switched around in D4, I did kind of like that system in D2, but it also led to everybody running Sorceress off the bat. I get, it's a give and take. I kind of get both sides of it, I suppose. Hope all is well. Dice, I think. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong, but hope all is doing well, and hope for some good news from the camp. Yeah, you summed up exactly how I feel. Hope everyone's doing great, and hopefully get some good news here, huh? Really hope this stream goes like this. We are sorry. Free Shaco hats for everybody. Guaranteed, G-Stacks. That's how it's going, my dude. Hunter says, hasn't played in a week. They botched the loot system so hard. So sad. Oh, well. I've been enjoying puzzle games now. Rocking some puzzle games, huh? Nice. Those never get old, I suppose, for some people. I'm not much of a puzzle game. Too much thinking. Too much thinking. Sean says you only need 3 runes for Enigma. So the 2 runes wouldn't be that bad, is what you're kind of getting at, I suppose. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to envision, I guess, how they would implement it. Like how rare the runes would be and stuff like that. I'm not sure. Easily do rune words if they make them crafted. Ah, yeah, okay, I see what you say. So yeah, instead of putting quote unquote like 6 runes in to make Breath of the Dying, you could have certain numbers of materials, you craft it, hypothetically, blah blah blah, you craft 6 runes into 1. Not necessarily saying this is how they could do it, but this is just an example of something you could do. Craft 6 runes into 1, and then that 1 into a socket.
$5 Australian through Super Chat. My appreciation for what you do here.
The 8 Thark. Thank you so much for the $5, my dude. Means a lot. Any amount means so much to me. It really does with you guys' support. It does make it possible for me to stream and keep making videos on this channel. So thank you so much. You legend. Ooh. Thank you so much, my man. My man. Oh, something's happening, fellas. It's the opening video again.
I am writing to you because although a great evil is receding
Max.
from sanctuary,
I'll take that under advisement.
now spreads its corruption.
Let me put this headphones on. I don't know how loud this is.
More dangerous, more malignant than I could have imagined. I have found a way to stop this plague, to rip the dark power of these monsters from their very core and turn it to our advantage in destroying them.
No, I think, Daniel, I think this is the cinematic for the season of 1 of Diablo 4.
My allies have fallen. My strength is dwindling. The malignant are relentless and without mercy. I need help. I need you.
Michael, my Shred Druid build, I have it, I have an older version of it on my channel right now. You got to go back a little bit, and I have my Diablo 4 channel. I have the current build over there.
Another Diablo 4 Campfire chat. My name is Adam Fletcher. I am the Associate Director of Community here on Diablo. Joined here by Joe Shelley, Game Director for Diablo 4. Mr. Joe Pipora, which you guys know of, and Joe as well, I guess. So, I mean, familiar faces. Associate Director for Diablo 4, and of course, Adam Jackson. Brand new face here. He is our lead class designer for Diablo 4. We have a lot to talk about today. Yes. In fact, just note, there's 2 Adams, 2 Joes, so this is going to get really confusing here. And we were thinking about, like, maybe we do like a battle royale or something like that to, you know, determine who talks next or whatever. But I will say we actually do have a lot to talk about. In fact, I would almost say this is like dev update stream worthy,
so as opposed to Campfire Plus.
Campfire Plus.
Campfire
Plus. Plus. Yeah. It's like New Game Plus Plus or whatever. Okay. But we do have a lot to talk about, specifically around patch 1.1.1. Did I say enough ones?
Yeah, you did.
1.1.1. 1.1.1, patch 1.1.1.
We did.
We are going to talk about some balance changes that are going to be coming.
Yeah, I don't think Joe Shelley's an on-camera guy,
of course,
mister,
we're also
so I
going to
think
be
that's
talking
why.
about the dates of when that patch is actually going to be hitting, along with when players will be seeing the patch notes, which will be well before the actual patch does actually hit, but we'll talk about that here in a second. I know we do want to jump right into it because we do have a ton to talk about. So I will actually throw it over here to Adam Jackson because I know he wants to talk a little bit about kind of like the class balance and what we're thinking about for 1.1.1.
Yeah, totally. Glad to be here. We have a lot to talk about. So first I want to kind of frame this in our goals and what we're going to be doing in this patch in the immediate future, and then talking a little bit about kind of how the class team feels about classes and kind of what we're thinking in a more mid to long-term space. So for this patch, we've got a lot going on. One of our goals is kind of, I think, obvious to the community. We want to kind of improve the effectiveness and the fun of the Sorcerer and the Barbarian. So we've got a lot of changes coming in there, and I think I want to frame this in 2 ways of kind of what we're thinking about the Sorcerer and then what we're thinking about with the Barbarian, because they both have, you know, kind of different things going on. For the Sorcerer in this patch, we're focusing on reducing something that we call Kiss Curse mechanics, which is kind of, I know, a very designery term, but it's this idea that we give you a really cool power effect, and then we kind of take something away or make it nerfed or nerf some other part of you in some way, usually for balance reasons, to make sure that it's not just, you know, out of control and power.
Yeah, usually the idea there is, like, to your point, it's like, so we really have, like, you know, 20% we can afford to give you, but if we take 10% of something else away, we can give you 30% or 35% and feel a little bit better about that.
Exactly. Usually it's to sell a fantasy in a really strong way, but we can't, like, do that justifiably without just breaking.
You go a little bit Sorceress and Barbarian love.
A little too harsh with that, and so we're going to try and reduce or remove that in some cases. And then the other one is late game survivability.
We know remove some of the stuff in
have
some
a
cases.
tough time, when they start getting pushing those later Nightmare Dungeon tiers. And so we're going to be looking at ways to increase that specifically. And an example of that curse mechanic is the Serpentine aspect. If you know that one, it's the one where you can spawn an additional Hydra, but it reduces the duration of your Hydras. That's just no longer going to reduce the duration. It's actually going to increase it. So that's an example of something. We'll go into more detail later. For the Barbarian, we're focusing on improving the early game and making it feel better and just more fluid. We're going to be improving.
Thank you so much, Kermit, for the 5 gifted memberships. Skills. I don't want to override too much of the stuff, but I got to give you.
You let you do. Making a lot of their uniques more attractive
Thank you so much.
and effective. So you're going to see later when we go through the notes that we're going to be changing around usually about 1 affix per unique from something that really isn't that attractive for players to something that they really, really want, which we think will help make those items really exciting.
Now, when we make changes to items, specifically items like uniques, many of these changes
once again, thank you, Kermit.
Only take effect on new items, right? Like I think we have an example of the Hellhammer here.
Yeah, kind of. It's a little bit more complex than that. So we're going to delve into one of our examples of what we're updating here. But when we update a unique item, we actually update Hellhammer in 2 different ways. So we're increasing the duration that the ground is going to be ignited and burning, and then we're also increasing the damage, and that's the actual unique effect power, the exciting thing that the item does. But you can see here on Hellhammer, we're also doing another change where we're actually granting you a bonus critical strike damage and removing the bonus damage to crowd control enemies, right? So on the left, what you see here, when you log into the game,
Barb experts, what do you think about that?
The left version is what you're going to get. So you're not going to get the critical strike damage change where the actual item affix there, the rule changed, but you are going to get the updates to the upheaval, lasting longer and doing more damage. On the right, when you find your new items after the patch, you're going to get the new affixes, the new rules and things like that.
So there's going to be new items and old items now. That's crazy, kind of.
So new versions of these items will have all of the buffs we're talking about.
New versions will have everything new, and the old versions will get the new stuff on the actual legendary effects, but then you won't have the new item stats on it.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, so going back to kind of other things that we're looking at. So that's the Sorcerer and the Barbarian one we're focusing on. Then generally across all classes, we're doing a few other things as well. We're looking at builds that aren't really hitting a high enough power level, and we're going to be just buffing them and increasing the power of them, so they should feel better and be more competitive. We're also going to be looking at increasing the attractiveness of kind of uniques across the board. We're focusing on Sorcerer and Barbarian for this patch, but we actually believe that we can do this kind of thing across the board. There's a lot of uniques that we think aren't really hitting the mark. It's something that's kind of a tough thing that we talk about a lot on the team, because the roles and the things that the uniques have as far as their item power are all fixed, right? They can't re-roll different stats all over the place. So we could very easily just make all uniques really good by putting all the best stats on the items, right?
Corey, it wasn't there was a different stat they were talking about, not the 4 seconds at the bottom.
Just make all of them clearly the best items in the game because they have all the best stats and they have really good powers. We want there to be something that's really unique and attractive about them, and you have to kind of think of how you're going to fit these into your character's build. But we think that we are just not hitting the mark on a lot of them, so we're boosting them a little bit and then just kind of seeing how that goes. Next, we're going to be looking at opening up build-specific designs to be more widely useful. So there's a lot of effects on legendary powers and in other places where this effect only works in a very narrow use case, like only on a single skill or a single group of skills, or we're using a certain proc to get it. And in many cases, we're just going to open that up to be more widely usable so that players can actually use them in more different builds or different ways. One example of this that we'll go over later is Chain Lightning's upgrade, Greater Chain Lightning. Currently, it gives you the bounces of Chain Lightning do bonus damage when it bounces off of you. And we're going to change that so that it just does bonus damage when it bounces off of anything. So instead of being kind of a narrow use case where you're only using it like on a boss or a single target enemy and getting value, you'll just get it a lot more often now.
Yeah, it feels like a much better lightning range skill now in that way. It's easier for me to
Chain Lightning, new meta. Let's go, fellas.
Yeah, totally. So that's kind of what we're looking at for this patch.
Okay, so we talked last week about sort of our things that we want to do, like going forward in the game, other things we want to do. Not all of that stuff is in this patch.
Yeah, no, we have a lot of talks on our team. We have a lot of things that we're thinking about and going on. I thought it'd be really good also to kind of talk a little bit about how we feel about more longer term goals and things about the game. So these aren't coming in this patch, but things that we're thinking about that'll come in the future that the team's kind of focus on. The first one is kind of finding ways to bring different types of damage closer together. As I'm sure many of you in the community know, vulnerable and crit are really, really strong right now. Kind of a lot of the meta is about, you know, you make an enemy vulnerable and then you do bonus damage to them and then you stack as much crit strike chance and crit damage as you can and then you blow them up, right? Our game actually was foundationally made with other types of builds that aren't only those in mind, right? We have like damage over time or dot damage, things like Firewall or Shadow Necro does a lot of this. We also have Overpower as a mechanic in our game, and these other different ways to build your character, we want them to have parity with, you know, vulnerable and crit damage. So we're going to be trying to find, our goal is to find a way, and we're working on it right now, that all those different ways of dealing damage have a lot of parity. So no matter if you're an Overpower build or a crit build or a damage over time build, you'll be relatively equal in power to all of the other different types of ways to play. So another one that we're looking at is adding scaling to builds and effects that don't really scale very well in the game. This is something that I think is a big opportunity for us to open up just excitement in different builds in the game. And what I mean by this is we have a lot of legendary powers and effects that like spawn a new thing. An example of this is like on the Barbarian, there's some legendary powers that spawn earthquakes or dust devils. Another one is the Necromancer has like things that leave shadow trails on the ground that deal damage. And these things, they deal what we call flat damage, which is like we give it a damage number, and then that's how much it does, and then that damage number kind of scales with player level. But what we find is that a lot of these things are really good in the early and mid game when they drop, but then when you get to the really late game, they kind of fall off really hard. And what we want to do is find ways to add scaling so that the player can opt into like making a build out of these things. So if I want to be an Earthquake Barbarian...
Yeah, Cody, I knew they were going to talk buffs, but I figured they weren't going to talk about nerfing anything new.
That's something that
all
we're really
buffs.
excited about because we think that'll open up a lot more build possibilities. Ultimates are kind of in this range as well. This is a more long-term goal.
All buffs.
But similarly, you know, a lot of ultimates are really strong in the early and mid game. You take it, it blows up the screen, feels great. And then in the late game, a lot of ultimates that we see that are used are just used because they buff the player in some way.
Yeah, they don't blow up the screen the same way anymore.
Yeah,
I agree,
right?
I agree with that.
I'm excited to use Bone Storm because Bone Storm is awesome, not because it gives you a buff, right? Or you know, Grizzly Rage or other ones, right? So that's kind of something that we're thinking about in the mid to long term to make the game kind of open up and have more builds available.
So we've been talking here a little bit about sort of our philosophy here. We're about to get into patch notes. We're about to talk about Sorcerer. But we thought that it was important to talk a little bit about this philosophy, both because we want to be very transparent in terms of like how we're thinking about the game and what kinds of like why we're making changes.
No big deal, Cody.
Both so that when you see changes, you can understand what we're thinking, like what we're going for, and also so that we can incorporate feedback from the community, feedback from you into these.
Scott, your Sorcerer's about to wreck now, huh?
About to wreck. This particular live stream, right? So like we're gonna go through a lot of details really soon, which I think people are really excited about. I hope people are really excited about because we're gonna have a lot of those. And then afterwards, we want to hear back from the community about like how this worked. Like was this the best way to get this information? Did you get a lot of good data from us, and do you understand why we're doing making the changes that we are? Right, and to Joe's point, again, it's really useful for you to understand these things. It's going to help with the feedback that you give us back. We know whether we're hitting it or not.
Yeah, and this is like a multi-stage type of thing. So
yeah, I don't blame him, Keith, right?
You guys are about to see a ton of slides here in a second.
He said they sound like they're nervous to even say anything.
Different detailed balance changes that are coming across
I get it.
The classes. But then, like we said, like we do plan on releasing patch notes so that you guys can actually read them in more detail. And in those patch notes will be, you know, additional information such as like all the bug fixes and so forth that will be coming in with the game itself with 1.1.1. So.
Do we know when we're getting we plan on releasing those?
So we are. Look at this. We had planned this to talk about it later, and now like.
Sorry.
And now you're just gonna spoil it. We're actually gonna release patch notes, full patch notes. You guys will see these patch notes first here on the stream, but we will release patch notes next Wednesday on August 2nd, so that everyone will end up seeing it. We'll talk about the patch date here at the end of the stream. We're closer to the end of the stream.
Yeah. So just wait for the end of the stream. We'll talk about when that's gonna go out.
But what we do want to do is we do want to jump straight into the balance changes and so forth. And we do want to start off with the Sorcerer. So we have a lot of different slides and changes here that we do want to detail. So Adam, I know, wants to go through them all.
Yeah, totally. So I think what I'll do
your
is
changes
just,
right here in the middle.
Give you a few moments to look at the screen and kind of see what we're doing and then talk high level about some of the bigger changes here. So Flickering Firebolt is one we're changing Firebolt to basically just generate mana when you hit an enemy. Before it was only generated when you hit a burning enemy. So when you would just try and cast Firebolt, you know, without doing anything else, you would just always miss the first hit of getting the mana, which felt bad a lot.
That always felt bad. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a negative feedback loop. So we're just going to make it, you know, feel nicer. You still feel nice about burning things and piercing, but you just get it more often. Probably another big one here is the Greater Chain Lightning change I talked about, where every time that it bounces, the next hit would deal damage rather than only bouncing off of you. And then we're also buffing the other choice for Destructive Chain Lightning, so you get more crackling energies. Next one, let's go to the passives. These are all the key passives at the bottom of the skill tree. Isu's Ferocity is a big one. You're going to see a lot of these kinds of changes where it used to work kind of in a more narrow use case, and now it works in a case that it didn't, so that's just generically good. This one, it used to not really work on bosses very well. You had to kill enemies by critting them to get the bonus, and now you can also get it during boss fights by just hitting the boss and critting them. So you'll just have uptime and usefulness in a part of the game that it didn't before.
Sorry, let me adjust this.
Next, for Paragon, we're going to talk, let's see, these are a lot of the defensive changes that we talked about. So you've got some damage reduction increases to a lot of the glyphs and nodes across the board.
Sorry to interrupt real quick for this, but it's funny that they're using an in-development picture from the betas and stuff before the game launched for their background picture. I just think that's funny.
Just makes it more usable is the Searing Heat Legendary node. This one is when you cast Fireball or Meteor, now it just increases your crit strike chance across the board for 5 seconds, so you can get that crit strike and use it on any of your skills rather than only on them.
Yeah, damage reduction is actually like extremely strong in Diablo 4.
It's really, really good.
Yeah.
So these things should be pretty impactful.
Yep.
We can go to the next one.
Important observation too, right?
So here we've got some more Paragon nodes. Again, damage reduction across the board. Keep in mind that also on some of the rare nodes you can see them twice in a board rather than only once for the glyphs. So that means that this is actually like doubled if you go for both of them. And only we're also increasing the maximum life bonus on a couple of nodes. Again, just targeting that late game survivability. And now legendary, so there's a lot to chew on here.
There's your first one, Serpentine.
A lot of things going on with the sorcerers already, huh?
So now you can have a Hydra active, and instead of the duration being decreased, it's actually going to be increased. Next, we've got some, again, damage buff numbers to things that are underperforming. Aspect of 3 curses is one that I'm particularly excited about. Before, this one used to be that it only increased your crit damage of Meteor only and only against healthy enemies. So it was one skill and only healthy enemies. Now it's going to work on Meteor and Fireball, and you get half of the bonus all the time, and then an extra bonus against healthy enemies. So now you can use this in builds that you weren't able to at all before. The next one is pretty good, is Gravitational Aspect. This one was, it used to reduce your damage in exchange for the lightnings orbiting around you. Now we're going to increase it. So again, that's a pretty big swing in power. Next, we've got Recharging Aspect. This one was kind of similar to the change that we did to Chain Lightning to that bonus baseline. It used to only give you mana when it bounced off of you. Now it's going to give you mana when it bounces off of everything. So again, a lot more usable. And in combination with that Unbroken Tether, I think Chain Lightning players are going to be eating pretty this patch.
Wow.
We're also increasing the bonuses of Chain Lightning that you get when that proc
Getting all your mana back
so
from Chain Lightning sounds crazy.
Chain Lightning bounces,
kind of, sort of.
Lots of things, should be really
crazy
fun.
Good.
We're also putting a new legendary into the game. This is the Mage Lord's aspect. This one makes your Veer's Mastery Key passive, the damage reduction there, be increased by quite a bit so that you can survive when you're in that melee range. And let me see here, some Snow Veiled aspect is getting a pretty big generic buff, where before it just gave you Unstoppable when you used Frost Armor. I believe it's gotta be Frost Armor. And then, but now it also gives you bonus armor when you use it as well, just generally more useful. Incendiary Aspect terrifies me, but we're doing it. This one used to be that it procced off of all of your burning damage. So your burning damage could give you mana, and now it's going to just do it off of your pyromancy skills damage. So this opens up Meteor, Fireball, all of those other skills that aren't really Firewall.
Okay.
I think that's good for that one. And then for uniques, we've got the Gloves of the Illuminator. This is the one where your fireballs bounce and deal AoE damage. Before, when you got this, it was kind of in a very weird place where the bounces could do it pretty often in such a way where you'd only hit an enemy once with a bounce. And we have to put this damage penalty on it because, you can hit enemies multiple times with it, and it's AoE, and gives you a bunch of procs of all of your stuff, so it's really, really strong. But because you could only hit an enemy once, a lot of times this was just a damage nerf for your character.
Yeah, you'd bounce it one time on the monster, and that was that.
And now you
Yeah,
got
so
nerfed.
at least they're trying to do a lot of stuff for the Sorceress, right? I don't know. The chain lightning sounds like it's getting the most, to be honest. I like that, but some of the fire stuff looks good too, so hard to say. I have not a ton of experience personally with Sorceress, so.
Enemy twice, it's a damage bonus. And then we also replaced one of its affixes from damage to stunned to lucky hit to restore resource. And since this thing, bounces and hits enemies a lot of time, the lucky hit procs are very powerful with this. So we think this will be a lot more attractive for players. All right, moving on to the Barbarian. So, like I said before, we're increasing the Fury generation of all of those basic skills. So you're just going to get more Fury in the early game so that you can, do that basic core skill loop a little more often. So it should be more fun. Double swings gain a damage buff. Ruptures gain a damage buff. Charges gain a damage buff, and one of the enhancements is increasing that vulnerable duration, so it should hopefully be more attractive.
Love the Fury generation.
One thing I do want to note is, like, even on the, if we go back to the other slide, like, a lot of people are going, like, Fury gain 11 to 13 and like 10 to 13, and they're always like noting like, well, that doesn't feel like a big number and so forth. But I think players, by percentage, it's really big. Yeah, by percentage, it also scales with a whole lot of other stuff. It gets spooky when we do too much in a percent wise. Exactly. So I think because of how everything works in our game. I think people are seeing some of the smaller numbers, but not realizing that other things obviously.
Yeah, a lot of comments about how sucky the game is and stuff like that. And it's a good point. Like, no offense, but yeah, if you don't like the game, just don't play it. Come back when it's fixed, or don't. Diablo 2 Resurrected is amazing, so maybe just play that forever. I wouldn't blame you. The game's awesome. Gets tweaked. Everything else gets tweaked. That gets.
Want to point that out too when we do like damage increases, where it might seem small because it's increasing the base that everything else multiplies and scales on. It can be a bit. I mean, sometimes it's not as much. We can go and do it again, right? But it's scary and risky. So we have to think about that, because it's very easy to be like, oh, just make it 20, and now late game you're just like bashing once and then getting all your fury back or something, right? So. All right, so Violent Upheaval. This one gives you Berserking, and it used to be that you had to damage 2 or more enemies or 3 or more enemies to get a better buff, and now we're adding bosses to that. So when you're in a boss fight, you're just going to be able to get and chain that Berserking again, making it usable in a part of the game where it didn't used to be. We've also got Gushing Wounds is one I think worth calling out. This is the key passive. We're increasing the scaling of your bleed to crit damage, and then also your bleed damage when you overpower an enemy is going up significantly.
Yeah, that's huge.
11 to 70%. So
now when you overpower and get that AoE bloodburst, it's actually going to do
a big number, right?
Damage, we're hoping.
It's overpowering, so it's...
Walking Arsenal is another one worth calling out here. We heard some feedback that it's really hard to keep up all 3 of your weapon types when you're doing Walking Arsenal. Usually 2 is fairly easy. You can like have a basic and a core that are different weapons, but getting that 3rd one to consistently happen, especially if you're using a cooldown skill like Charge or Leap or something like that, it can be hard to maintain that. So we're just increasing it to make it more forgiving, which should also increase all of those legendaries and other powers and stuff.
That was possible for me when I had Deathblow charges, but whenever I was only running like 1 Deathblow charge at a time, like that build just didn't.
Yeah, Deathblow's probably one of the more one of the easier ones to get, and even then it can be a little hard, right?
Yeah, for sure. This is great. It opens up a lot.
Yeah. So next, talk legendaries. Let me see.
Yeah,
one of them,
Matty Fu, I agree with your sentence right there,
is
for
one
sure.
worth calling out, where again you're going to get a benefit when hitting bosses. So now it's useful in a part of the game that it wasn't used in at all. Another one is the aspect of, or 2 earthquake aspects there at the bottom, Bullkathos and Earthquake. We're increasing the amount of damage reduction and damage bonus. So if you want to do that earthquake build, like I said before, we want those earthquakes to do damage and be meaningful. But in the meantime, while you're standing in them, those buffs on you are going to be a little bit more powerful. So hopefully we can incentivize people to go through that fantasy.
Scott over on Twitch, he did say that he appreciates that they try as hard, even if they are doing things incorrectly or whatever once in a while here and there, things people don't like. But you never seen a game that they tried so hard on. Just one person's opinion, he appreciates it.
Stat that wasn't very attractive, or
I do appreciate that part too, I'll be honest.
We know players really like to make these meaningful for them. So Fields of Crimson, this is the one where you do blood pools when you rupture enemies. We're increasing the damage. We're increasing the damage that enemies take standing in pools, which is a pretty big buff. And then we're also changing the rupture cooldown reduction with bonus crit strike damage. And again, combine that with the bonus in the key passive where the bleed damage,
70, right?
where that scales better. That'll just be quite a bit more damage across the board. Hellhammer we talked about. Ramaladi's Magnum Opus, we're replacing the physical damage affix with vulnerable damage.
8K, come on.
100,000 steps. The base affix of the boots, we're replacing the evade cooldown affix with just more evade charges. And then we're also replacing the damage against stun enemies with bonus movement speed, which you'll see a couple times.
I'm surprised a little bit they're going over all these in such in-depth. I don't dislike it, but I'm just surprised, I'm saying. Not... So.
I was just going to say, we said that we were going to buff Sorceress and Barbarian. We're going to make some changes in 1.1. But Adam, you've been working on, we don't want to leave the other 3 classes out, right?
Yeah, totally.
Most of these changes that you've seen are for Sorc and Barb. But I think we had some time to make some changes to the other classes
We
too.
totally did. So
Nerf.
One thing I do want to call out, though, the focus of the patch is the Sorcerer or the Barbarian, so you're going to see a lot more for them, but we wanted to give the other classes something exciting.
Those ones needed more changes, so
Rogues
that's
are
good.
actually, I think, eating pretty well right now, so they're pretty good, but we still found some things of underused things to buff. Probably one of the more big ones here is Forceful Arrow. We're changing the functionality here so that every time that you cast, third cast of the arrow just pierces all enemies, which is a pretty big just generic bonus. We got some feedback on Rain of Arrows that it was kind of weird that the second wave was the one that knocked all the enemies down, because a lot of times, you cast a skill and the combat is in a certain state where the enemies are where you want to hit them and probably where you want to CC them, because you usually want to group stuff up to CC them. But because it happens on the second wave, the first wave comes, does a little damage to everything.
They all move.
And then they all move, and then everything goes and falls apart, right? So this just makes it more reliable.
It sets itself up.
It sets itself up, yeah, exactly. Here, let me look if there's anything noteworthy. There's some buffs to things that are underused. So the aspect of Elusive Menace no longer requires hits to be from close enemies. So again, we're just making things more generically usable. And then for uniques, kind of similar to Barbarian, we found some room here to make a couple stats replaced with things that we know are really, really attractive. So in Windforce, we replaced the all stats affix with bonus vulnerable damage. And then the Word of Hakan, we replace ultimate damage with cooldown reduction.
Cooldown reduction, there we go. Not a lot of change on the road.
Kind of similar to what I said about the Barbarian, about that early game kind of feeling a little bit slow. We're also improving all of the spirit generation of the Druid's basic skills. So across the board, you're just going to be able to get to those core skill casts a little bit easier. We're also improving the passive damage generally of a lot of their companion skills. So your wolves are going to feel better. The both passive and active damage is going up. The upgrades for the wolves are all got one, though. More powerful.
11 to 12, come on, bro.
And then same thing for Ravens. Their passive damage is going up. And then Brutal Ravens, this is the one that gives you another little, a couple more little Ravens to go peck your enemies to death. They're also going to peck a little bit harder. So a little bit more fantasy fulfilling there, I think. And then we're also looking at Rabies. We know that Poison Druid, like just if I want to do pure Poison Druid, is a little bit behind. So we're really targeting Rabies as a pretty meaty upgrade there in its damage. This will also, by the way, improve the legendary, I think it's legendary where your wolves can cast Rabies. That's also going to be improved by this.
Appreciate you, Walter.
So just that whole archetype will be better. And then for legendaries and the class mechanic, we're just buffing some things that are a little bit underutilized, so they'll just be stronger. And then Necromancer, so here we've got quite a few things going on. Bone Spirit, this is the enhanced Bone Spirit, which is where when you crit enemies with the Bone Spirit, you get cooldown reduction. We're increasing that from 6 to 7 seconds, so it should be a little more friendly to players in this current state of the game. The Wither legendary upgrade here, this is the one where your shadow dot damage is going up, and we added a new way to scale that damage in the legendary space. We got feedback that this really just wasn't scaling enough to be meaningful, even when you invested a lot into willpower. So now you're just going to get a lot more bang for your buck. You're
Shoulder workout.
The requirement is less, so you're going to get more procs of the increase to your damage and
need a good angle. Come on, bro.
That damage, and then also just your bonus damage.
Lou roasted me over here. Come on.
So the shadow builds should be a lot better.
Bad angle. I'm leaning.
We got some feedback that totally makes sense to me now, and a year ago me should have thought of this. But the way that this used to work was Sever would spawn a pool of blight under enemies, and the chance was based on you critting them. So the idea was you would create a crit build, and then you turn your crit into these pools of damage, right? That sounds kind of cool. But it turns out, crit doesn't work with dots at all. So that pool doesn't get scaled with the way that you make the pool. So it just doesn't work design-wise. I take the blame for that. But now we're changing it, so you just have to damage enemies to spawn those pools of blight. So now this can actually be more friendly to dot builds. And then aspect of Exposed Flesh. This one used to have the same effect, but only when hitting vulnerable enemies with bone skills. So now you can just get, we have a new resource mechanic for all the Necromancer specs that aren't bone. And then here, let me see, probably one of the big ones to call, even though it's just a number buff, is Aspect of Torment. That Essence Regeneration was just woefully undertuned, so we increase it pretty significantly. Hulking Aspect, this one, I'm hoping gets to see more play. This used to be a resource legendary, which looking at it now was a little weird, because it doesn't actually give you resource, it's just cooldown reduction on the Golem skill. So we're going to move that to a utility. So now you can put this like on your boots and other places that you didn't have to, and it doesn't have to take that prime ring slot for to use this legendary.
I wish they do with a lot more stuff, allowing you to put it on more pieces of gear, not just the Necro with a ton of stuff.
Kind of similar to what I said before, the Greaves of the Empty Tomb. We're changing the bonus.
Nothing's more annoying when you think you can put an aspect on your boots or on your gloves, and you're like, oh shoot, it's got to go on an amulet or a ring. Great.
Mobility for Necromancers.
Yeah, well, Necromancers, they may want mobility a little bit, I heard.
Usually the slower.
Probably a balance issue or whatever, but I still hate it.
Individuals in the group, so.
Yeah. Helping them out a little bit. Here, this is a monster change, but it impacts minions really, so Necromancer and Druid. But these attacks now from the Balrog and some elite affixes are going to be dealing reduced damage to Necromancer minions and Druid companions.
Small
so
W
your
there.
Pets will just die less often to these things. And then now we got some of our generic updates. We only have a couple of them. The first one is to a Malignant Heart. This is the Caged Heart of Spellbreaking. And this one used to say that when you took elemental damage, you gained damage resistance to that element, right? It was thematic to reducing only that element. But we found that was really, really narrow. Again, trying to open things up so it's not so narrowly useful that you're not going to ever take it. So now it's just going to give you just generic damage reduction when you take elemental damage. And then our last one here for item updates is Temerity. So we got a lot of feedback on this one. It's funny because when we launched the game, we thought that this item was crazy and going to be really, really good. But then we realized due to the stats on it that it just wasn't hitting the attractiveness that we wanted. So even though this terrifies me, we're going to bump it up and see how it goes. But we're going to replace the all stats affix with bonus max life. The barrier is now also going to be scaling with your maximum life. And it'll probably be working with other barrier legendaries where,
I haven't used this piece at all. What do you guys think about that one?
With that as well. So we think this is going to be a pretty big buff to this item, and hopefully we'll see it in your max life and increase.
Definitely a good change, I think, but
yeah,
I see a lot of people use Temerity.
Of updates coming to the classes.
Even before.
We literally just went through it's quite almost like an encyclopedia of stuff that, especially on the Barb and Sorcerer classes. But I will say that it's nice that we got some stuff in for the Rogue, Necromancer, and Druid players as well. Making sure that we kind of buffed up some of the more undertuned stuff that we had seen.
Actually, one more caveat to all of that. I should have said this at the beginning. It's not final yet.
Not final
This is planned.
You probably saw the little
Nothing's final.
Very high, we do 90% of it or most of it, maybe even all. But as we get into the weeds of things and we're updating things, some things may change. So this is our plan. It's very likely it'll be at least most of it, if not all of it. But it's not completely in the game yet. So.
Oh, you know what?
Yeah, we always add a small caveat just because things are still going through testing right now on our side.
I just realized I wrote myself.
Seeing all that stuff.
Yeah, we're make sure not completely.
I'm very careful. I always caveat, not final until you see it in the game.
Adam's being very cautious about it. It's not going to be. You're not going to experience something that's totally different from what you just saw.
That's right. That's also why we're not releasing patch notes today, and we're going to actually discuss when patch notes will be released later on the stream. So we'll reveal that.
And one thing I do want to note is because I'm seeing this a little bit in chat, and people are going hey, you guys are adjusting some tweaks with for instance Druid summons and their minions. Same thing with there's a lot of questions about hey, what's the overall plan on minion builds and so forth in the future? Is that something you guys are still going to want to work on, look at in the future?
A couple of people asked about when the patch is. It's going to be on the 2nd is when the patch notes will drop. I don't know when the patch actually will drop. Patch notes are on the 2nd though, officially.
Necromancer first. So Necromancer minions is absolutely a core fantasy of Necromancer players, that minions are cool and awesome and that you can raise the dead and have the dead fight for you. That is core. Minions, it turns out, in all games, not just ours, or summons or all that, are very complicated and hard to make work. They have a lot of moving parts that are different than every other class and build archetype in many games. They have AI, they have a passive and active component to them typically. There's a lot going on. So in this patch, we're not touching the Necromancer stuff a lot. It is on the team's radar of looking at the ways that they scale, looking at the ways that things proc with them, looking at just the combination of passive versus active activity that we want the player to do there. So there's definitely a lot going on there. We are thinking about it. There will be stuff coming, but no promises on when, but we are actively talking about it. Druid is a little bit different because from the ground up, the class fantasy is not only minions, right? It's like a specific build and way to play. One of the things that we were concerned about when launching the game is we didn't want the Druid to like have just as many or more companions than the Necromancer, and they're stronger. It's like, where's the fantasy of the Necromancer if the Druid does it better, right? So that was something that we contended with a lot. I'm sure that we're going to flex on that over time. We did add support. We still love companions on Druid, and we will absolutely be making it more of a thing, hence why we're buffing them a lot in this patch. But we are careful about the design space and the fantasy of the different classes, right? We don't want all the classes to be exactly the same because then you don't feel different when you're playing. You don't have new interesting mechanics that are between them. We talk about that a lot on the team. It's very easy to be like, hey, just this class doesn't have this and it's fun, give it to all the others, right? I think Necromancer and move speed is part of that where we overcorrected a little bit.
Super quick interruption. Don't forget, fellas, hit that like button. Help me out just in the YouTube algorithm. Absolutely free. Little like button hit. Thank you guys very much.
Speed options at all, I think, is something that we're coming back on.
Yeah.
So, but it's a push and pull, right? It's on a spectrum of how far do we go to go into another class's fantasy or an archetype that doesn't make sense fantasy-wise versus keeping true to the core and finding clever ways to fix it, or we can't fix it and we do need to bend a little bit. And it's always a conversation.
It's also interesting to see that the feedback, particularly on Druid companions, like we knew that they were really cool, but like the number of Druid players who are looking for more ways to kind of make more companion-focused builds is maybe a little bit higher than we expected.
Yes.
So this is one of those situations where, like, kind of in response to the fact that players are really hoping, like, Druid players are looking to go after this fantasy of, like, I am the master of the animal kingdom, and I'm going to have all these and nature, right? I'm going to have all these buddies with me. I think it's kind of like moving our hand a little bit. It's like, oh yeah, actually, there is something really cool here. There is fantasy here for us to really latch onto and more that we can do. But to Adam's point, it's still very important we make sure that the Necromancer feels distinct and the Druid feels distinct after these changes go in.
Correct. It's the eternal struggle for us on class design.
Sure. Yeah. We also have a lot of like quality of life items that we wanted to talk about that we actually kind of hit on last week when we were talking on the Campfire chat that would be coming in 1.1.1, and I know we wanted to talk a little bit more about those here. I know we have some changes coming for like monster density, for instance.
Yeah, I want to talk about monster density.
Open loot filter and stash
So we've said a few times now that we're going to increase monster density in Nightmare Dungeons and Helltides. These changes are in 1.1.1, like we said last week. And I think we have an image of an example of a Nightmare Dungeon. So this is how it is today. If you go into Nostrava's Deepwood, of course, monsters are going to not be exactly like this, but this is an example of it. And then in 1.1.1, it's going to change, so you can see a lot more monsters here.
There it is.
And this is really going back to, we talked about our mission statement for the live game of after you've achieved your build, being able to go in and mow down large numbers of enemies, deal with large numbers of enemies.
Kill all monster dungeon. Great.
Sort of a core part of
just real quick, I realized earlier when I said the in development picture, that wasn't an old picture. They just didn't want me or someone like me to screenshot it and say, this is what's happening for sure. Those changes that they were showing during that picture were in development. I self-roasted myself earlier.
As I said last week, there are some areas of Helltide that are highly dense, and we want to make sure that all of our players across all of the different platforms that we support can enjoy this increased density, so it's not just the people with the absolute top-end equipment. So we've also been making sure that as we bump up these densities, that we're doing it in a way that performance stays reasonable. So you can actually, like, if we bump up density and then the game turns into a slideshow, we didn't actually make the game more fun. Even though there are a lot of monsters, so it needs to stay performant at the same time. So we've been working on that at the same time so that we can really hit that target. And this is something too that when 1.1 comes 1.1
1.1.1.
we gotta have like we gotta have a different name for these patches. For these patches, it's fine. When that comes out, we're going to be looking at the density there and seeing how close it comes to this mission statement, this goal, right? And if it's not hitting this goal, then we're going to keep.
Yeah, please do No all caps in chat. It might have been an accident, but no all caps, please.
Fantasy of mowing down hordes of enemies.
Yeah, it's a great goal for us to line ourselves around too, right? So once we're able to capture more data from players on live, we can see how players with different like PC specs are able to interact with some of these spaces. It's going to continue to inform us and let us do more and more double down some of these decisions as we go.
And then I know we have some changes coming in regards to bosses and so forth as well.
That's right. So we didn't talk about this last week, but we have gotten a lot of feedback before about the about players, particularly like in World Tiers 3 and 4, fighting like dungeon bosses and world bosses, and being able to go in there with their enhanced power. Now they've got like some uniques online. Their build has really come online. And they've got like a lot of like damage to vulnerable targets, you know, like they're mowing through some of these bosses faster than we expect, right? So, or rather, fast enough that's not really challenging and not really engaging. So we are boosting the health of bosses in World Tiers 3 and 4, you know, at brackets as you're kind of going up the experience. But you know, in exchange for this, in exchange for making some of these pieces just a little bit harder as players are going through them, we are also going to be making a change to the rewards that you get from going through these.
Yeah.
So now, like after 1.1.1 goes live, dungeon bosses starting at level 35 even, so this is before you can get into World Tiers 3 and 4. And then it's the, so once you've done that, or once you've killed those, you're going to have a guaranteed legendary item drop in that space. And that's going to carry up as well into World Tiers 3 and 4. When you complete a Legion event, that's going to also give you a guaranteed legendary drop starting at level 35. You know, there's a chance before 35, but it's guaranteed at level 35. You're going to have one pop in. And then another Butcher has a 100% chance to drop a legendary as well, because he's a boss, of course. And then another really big one is we got, and this is funny, I did a please don't follow me on Twitter unless you really want to see a lot of nerdy stuff. But I did a Twitter poll a while ago where I basically just said you know, what do you think is the chance at which a treasure goblin will drop a legendary item? And I said it was like, you know, 10%, 25%, 40%, 50% with the 4 options. The majority of players or voters, I should say, right, all selected 10% was the chance, and everybody had their own, you know, their feelings on it as they were kind of going through it. But the reality is that and I said level 50 Treasure Goblin as part of this, but the reality is they have a 50% chance to drop legendary items today. And that's like going back to like level 35. They've got a very, very high chance to drop legendary items, but
So what you're saying is sometimes I kill a Treasure Goblin and it doesn't drop a legendary item.
That's correct. That's exactly right. So basically, if you flip a quarter every 25 minutes, you know, that's basically your chance to get a legendary item when you're fighting treasure goblins in the overworld. And it's very easy to have like tails 5 times in a row, and then
that's what happens to me every time.
And as humans, we are 7 times more likely to remember a negative thing than a positive thing. So this is nothing wrong with rather there's nothing wrong with the player's perception of treasure goblins not feeling rewarding. You don't see them that frequently relative to other content types, and when you don't get a legendary item from something called a treasure goblin, that can feel bad. So what we decided to do is we've gone back and said, starting right at level 15 for treasure goblins, 15, they have a guaranteed legendary item drop chance when you kill one from that point forward. So now when you see treasure goblins in the map, you start hearing them like snortling around in the corners of your screen. You know you need to go fight that thing. You need to take it out. You need to get a legendary item from it. That happens very, very early. So we think that's going to be like a really fun like updates to kind of help get these things across. 50% isn't useful in this case. 100%, absolutely. We want you to feel like you're getting that power.
50%
no more
fun.
coin flip. No more coin flip.
Yeah, actually probably more than 50% more fun.
I will note, Joe missed a wonderful opportunity to drag in Gabi, the goblin.
The treasure goblin.
Yeah, I wouldn't even care. A guaranteed chance of a legendary from. I wouldn't even care if you found them if treasure goblins were less often. But when you see one, it should drop you something good, right? I don't want them to cut the amount, but I'm just saying. They got to drop it.
Staring at Joe as he's literally talking about killing him. So yeah,
they're happy to be of help.
It is a plush creature. So yeah.
I know, and so we talked more about, or you actually, when we were on the stream last week. Sorry, that. 2 weeks in a row, you guys. We talked about respecs and so forth. So I know that is also coming in.
Yeah, we just want to confirm that the stuff we said last week, we're going to reduce respec cost by 40%. Players are going to get an extra stash tab, and Elixir stack count is going to go up to 99.
Yeah, and the stash tab is just purchasable by gold.
Right.
So
yeah.
it's just to make sure that people don't think we're just selling it.
Tab 1's 100K, Tab 2's 200K, Tab 3's 300K, Tab 4's going to be 400K. So you can buy that for your seasonal stash and for your eternal stash.
Yes, exactly. And then one other thing that we did want to talk about, because this was a question that came up last week in regards to like the leaving dungeon options and like teleporting out of dungeons and so forth. And I know you wanted to talk more about that here today.
I don't know. I think I explained it pretty well last time.
So clear.
So clear.
There's a loop there. I don't know why anyone's confused. This is very clear. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to change it back to 3 seconds.
Yes.
Basically, the reason that we increased this,
I want to hear this,
is we have in Diablo 4 we have a mechanic where when you're casting some kind of spell or power and you get hit by some damage, you don't get interrupted immediately. You have to take about 5% of your health and damage before it gets interrupted. And this makes things like town portaling back to town, leave dungeon, etc., feel a lot better.
Saving a prisoner.
Saving a prisoner, absolutely, yeah.
Every time.
So if you're taking like really incidental damage, it's not going to get interrupted. But we were worried about a case where you're in the middle of a high-intensity combat fight or in the middle of a boss fight, and we felt like it was a little bit too easy to get out of that in terms, and that's actually what it's referring to with the loop, which again, I felt like I nailed it, but I guess you know, and so. You know, there are other ways that we could have solved that, right? We could have said like, oh, well, you get pushed back on your cast, or like, oh, well, it's only increased to 5 seconds if you're in a boss fight or something like that. But ultimately, you know, what players really accurately pointed out is, look, this slows down the core loop of the game in a way that's not fun. Yeah. So we're just changing it back to 3 seconds.
Yeah. So it was at 3 seconds, went to 5 seconds.
All right, back to 3 seconds.
You know, obviously, good player feedback.
I don't know. I guess I'll take him at his word for why they changed it, I guess. But yeah, I'm glad they changed it back.
Getting a lot of feedback, obviously, on the end game experience, tiers 3 and 4, and you know, Nightmare Dungeons are a really big part of that. Last week we talked about how we were going to be ensuring that they
probably just never thought it'd be a big deal, to be honest.
More appropriately. Yeah.
Right.
So now, like, you know, the tier 70 difficulty was the old version. Rather, the old version of tier 70 is now the tier 100 after the changes that we made to more accurately reflect the balance we have in Diablo 4 versus the kind of insane overtuned stuff we had prior for the tier 70 plus content. One other thing that we obviously are thinking about, like, you know, the scaling difficulty is one part of this, you know, but we also get plenty of feedback on on some of the Nightmare Dungeon affixes themselves. And we know that some of these are sort of ones you're going to want to basically throw in the trash right away.
Resource
so you're going to want to
burn.
salvage these and get Citadel Dust immediately upon when some of these things kind of pop
Gold
up.
enchant.
So a couple of the ones that we're actually going to be, for now, we're going to be removing a few of these as we think about reworking them or deciding what we want to do with them. But we're going to be taking these out in 1.1.1. They're not going to appear anymore.
What?
That is, so the first is Resource Drain. It's not going to be showing up in Nightmare Citadels anymore.
What?
Cold Enchanted is not going to be showing up in Nightmare Citadels
Am
anymore.
I on the stream right now? What's going on?
And then Backstabber is being removed as well as part of 1.1.1. Now, this is not by any means an exhaustive list of the things we'd want to like adjust on the affix side.
I'm happy about
there's
that.
lots more that we want to do to kind of improve this experience. This is just sort of like while we're in here beginning to look at these things, we know that these are problematic. We have adjustments we want to make anyway. We want to go ahead and pull these out and just make the experience better today.
That's a huge W. I wish this Stormbane's Wraith or whatever it's Lightning Storm would have gone to.
Players have been giving feedback about specific Nightmare Dungeon affixes and everything. So it's great that we've been able to jump on a few of the ones that we know are problematic with the community and kind of pull them out and reevaluate and see what we can end up doing with those. So we did, obviously we talked about the date for the patch notes beforehand.
I don't know what you did.
But
True
we
idea.
do want to specify that we are going to be releasing patch notes, full patch notes next week. It's actually going to be on August 2nd next week on Wednesday. We'll be releasing full patch notes. And then 1.1.1 is going to be coming out on August 12th, which is Tuesday. So players will be, did I get those dates right? Yes. I'm doing this by memory. I'm doing it by memory.
No idea. So.
I've seen so many calendars in the last day.
Tuesday after.
Oh, sorry. It is. No, I lied.
think it's
It
not
is August 8th.
Yeah.
See, this is This is dates.
Everything's a blur right now.
August 8th.
Sorry, August 2nd is when the patch notes will be coming out in full, and then August 8th is when the patch will actually hit. Sorry, I apologize. I've had a lot of dates in my head over the past couple of weeks.
Sorry,
so,
we buffed the date.
Yeah, I buffed the date. That's also part of the patch notes. So players will be able to see everything next Wednesday. We'll be posting those, so make sure to stay tuned. Of course, on the Diablo social media, etc. We'll end up updating the patch notes there, so players can see it. Just remember, the patch is not that day. We're just posting the notes early so that players can actually see them. This goes back to exactly how we were talking about that we want to better communicate these notes here, similar to how we're doing this here on this Campfire chat. And then, of course, August 8th is when the patch will end up going live for all players, so that they...
One more time real quick. Thank you guys for hitting the like button for me. I know most of y'all already did because y'all are legends. Ooh. But if you didn't, just a reminder, it's absolutely free. Hit the like button, help me out. Fellas.
We do want to jump into Q&A because we just went through a whole bunch of stuff right here. I know one question that, as we start to populate questions, feel free to ask them in chat on Twitch, by the way, because we have chat enabled there.
Why did you not remove Lightning Storm from
one question,
Dungeon
and
Affixes?
something that we talked about last week, as we're waiting for questions to kind of come in, was about XP in later game, or for late game players and stuff like that. Do we have any update and in regards to that specific topic?
Yeah, I can talk about that. So we did talk about this last week, and what we said then was that, you know, we are not looking to make the game feel slower across the board. We're not looking to like slow down the players' like XP gain rate in response to like feedback about some of the other changes that we had made. You know, the goal was really, we want to make sure the players are having a good time progressing through World Tiers 3 and 4, not feeling like they're hitting a point where it's really, really difficult to make progress. So in response to some of these thoughts, we had gone through and we had raised the amount of experience that you gain from like before the 1.1 patch went out. We raised the amount of experience gain you get from
Nightmare Dungeons.
Yeah, Josh, that question's probably coming pretty quick here, I think. Josh B.
Completion, like we went and did a good buff on those.
Yes, why don't resistances work?
Juicier as part of that, and now we're going through and we're updating density inside the Nightmare Dungeons and in Helltide areas as well. So all this to say, we are committed to increasing the speed at which the players be progressing through these later world tiers. We're not happy with the speed at which players are getting through some of this content and the kinds of behavior incentivizing as a result of that, right? We want to make sure that players feel that they can play the way that they want and they can progress at a decent pace. But now that we've made a number of these changes, we do want to see what the impact's going to be on the overall XP gain rate across the board for players, and just seeing how different kinds of players are progressing, so that when we go through and we make changes, which we will be making soon, I think probably likely for season 2, when we go through and we make these changes, that's going to be informed by what we see players going through and what their experience is like now. So it's really just a question of like how much are we going to make adjustments, like what's going to feel right, and that's going to be based on like what we see from players.
We have 2 people actually asking pretty similar questions, but one was specifically calling out Adam Jackson and his thoughts on this, but but they both are very similar questions. One is from Febzilla, the other one's from Karnaga.
I'm so sorry. Can I just jump in really quick? Can I ask chat a question? Do you, yes or no, do you want Adam to read the names of people that he's getting the questions from the chat?
I think we should.
Adam.
Yes.
Okay, he's saying he should. Okay.
I think we should, just because I don't want to go into that whole situation, Mike, where that other outlet made up names, and we don't do that. So, but Karnaga and Febzilla, they both ask about. People are all like, no.
I knew it.
Well, honestly, it would make my job so much easier.
I know.
I wish I
Please
could.
finish your question.
Well, we're going to read these at least.
The question is about crowd control. Obviously, it is a huge and popular topic amongst the community. What are our thoughts about crowd control? What are we planning on doing about that here in the future?
I bet we all have thoughts on that, actually.
We do, yeah.
Yes.
Let me just say first that we think that as you get into situations where there are lots of monsters on screen and high-end areas where the amount of damage that you're seeing going in and out is really high, so you're having to react really quickly. Situations where you're being hard CC'd, or like stun or freeze or something like that, can be much more impactful than they are when the intensity and the pace of combat is lower. And so we want to make changes to CC to make that experience more fun. We want to do that. It's not in 1.1.1, But those are changes that we're looking at right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's larger CC stuff that we're discussing internally that we want to kind of pair with a few of the big changes we have planned in the future.
In fact, we're working on stuff like that for that right now.
Yeah.
It's
there
something.
is
It's something.
a question here
working on
regarding,
CC.
It's my favorite
Like
question.
something
So
with
I
it.
get this. It's from Cookie Drops.
Sort of sort of political
Are
response.
you guys planning on addressing the issues related to like the
They're looking at it.
imperfectly balanced on Necromancer, the decrep aura on Necromancer, and those are addressed in 1.1.1.
Yeah, we fixed it.
Those are we just didn't list all the bug fixes and stuff
There's
like that.
a whole lot of bug fixes.
Yeah, so you guys will see those with the final notes and everything, but those are addressed in this specific update, and it's something that I know a lot of people have been asking, going like, well, I can only add 1 point, yet it says I can add 3, and so forth. So most definitely being addressed in that. We've actually just been getting a general decent amount of questions related to resistances and what the intent is going to be with resistances here in the future. There's a ton of questions, so lots of names. But I guess like what's the vision on resistances here in the future?
I talked about it a little bit. The vision is kind of, I think, what the standard vision of most games is, which is everything is impactful and meaningful and feels good, and you invest and get rewarded for those things at all times. But reality is a little bit harder than that, but that is kind of the North Star in what we're trying to do. The idea is that when you invest in elemental resistances, you will notice a difference in the damage that you take. We don't want just armor or damage reduction or any like keen stat that is just way better than everything else. That's the only thing you care about. It is tough to find a perfect balance there of how impactful some things should be versus others, and then can you negate certain kinds of combat when you actually really focus on only one thing. And there's a lot of gray area there that we're talking about, but our goal is that, and when we go and really take a deep dive at it, is one, we don't want you to just stack armor and that's better than everything else. We don't want you to stack just like general damage resistance and that's just better than everything else. We want elemental resistances to be meaningful, but we also don't want to get to a place where you fight a fire boss and you stack all fire resistances and it actually can't hurt you. Right? There's always a push and pull in this one.
The inverse of that is actually also really dangerous, which is that you're wandering through the game, you don't always know the kinds of creatures or affix, obviously, you don't know the kinds of affixes you're going to be dealing with. You've got 0% poison resistance, and you get basically one tick from a level 60 poison creature kills you.
Sure.
Right? It's like, there's a balancing act. The team is, as we move forward, everything that Adam just said is 100% accurate. We want to make sure that the choices between like armor for mitigation, for damage resistance based on passives, legendary powers, glyphs and paragon nodes, those things are impactful, and that resistance plays a really, really important role. The big difference here is that resistance is a thing that you are going to stack and earn separately, and that they're usually tied to affixes or inherent affixes on rings and jewelry. So it means that some players will be able to go and encounter situations where they are not going to have a predictable amount of resistance when they go into an encounter, which means that we just need to think about what that is going to feel like for that player, and imagine a world where they are able to still complete the content, but it's much more effective to have the appropriate amount of resistance. We need to make that feel impactful. Yes. So there's going to be situations where we are going to ensure that if you are getting into a predictable fight against a creature that you know is going to be dealing a certain kind of damage, and you don't have resistance in mind when you go into that fight, you're going to be penalized for that. That's going to be a really, really difficult situation for you. But we are, trying to balance this against the general flow of Diablo 4 as it stands today, as opposed to trying to like remake it into an entirely different experience.
Right. And to sort of get to I think the point of the question, the question there, which I think is, do you guys realize that resistances don't feel like they're hitting that goal right now?
That's right.
We do realize. We're gonna make changes to that.
All right, sounds good.
When?
There is a lot
when.
of questions about mounts and how, we've gotten a lot of feedback about mounts. We've seen.
I mean, at least they're hitting like all the comments I've been seeing in our chat too. So they're hitting it in some way, at least, I suppose. But I wish they would have said when.
If you haven't seen it, highly recommend checking it out. But are there any discussions? Are you guys aware? Like, what are you guys planning on doing in relation to mounts?
Yeah, there are a few changes here. So we want to make mounts feel better, sort of broadly speaking, and a couple of those things are making sure that the boost feels really good, especially with controller, where it's underperforming, and the boost actually, the boost mechanic on the mounts, it actually stacks. There's a bug right now with that on controller where it's not stacking properly. We're going to fix that. There's a few other. There's a key part of this is that the mount gets stuck on things, and that's
Barricade.
One of the things that,
yeah,
barricade, for example. You know, in theory, the idea that you're riding through an area and some bandits or some skeletons have set up a barricade for you, and you have to sort of like dismount and fight all those skeletons, like that sounds like a fun idea.
Cool.
It doesn't exactly play out that way. You're just sort of annoyed, and you're like, well, can I like kind of ride around the top of the barricade? And then it's a fight about whether the collision actually touches. Anyway,
that's it. Yeah,
we're going to fix that. So there's some good changes to mounts coming soon in the future.
Awesome. And I know that I've been seeing this a lot as well in chat, and this is something I can answer.
They just had an idea and it was wrong, I guess. Pretty much the answer there.
I'm seeing a lot of people talk about VRAM, like on PC and so forth, and like how that obviously grows over time with certain players, not all players, but certain players with certain spec machines, and they eventually either have to force close or the game actually just ends up closing itself, and then they have to come back into the game. I know with patch 1.10, there was a update related to a memory leak that we ended up addressing, but then in 1.11, and I know that QA and so forth, our QA team has been working really closely with their graphics engineering team and testing out a fix that's going to be coming in there that should be helping out a lot of those players and making sure that VRAM stays stable throughout their gameplay and so forth. So that will also be in 1.11. It's a popular question. I know a lot of people have been hitting me up on that one specifically. There was a question earlier about overpower and the intent behind it, what like future plans and so forth.
Sure.
Kind of similar to the resistance questions. I think there's a lot of questions related to a lot of these things that we do plan on actually addressing.
Totally. They're fundamentally like how the game works, so I understand. So the intent of overpower way back in the day was we really wanted to create a stat that was different than crit and felt meaningfully different that players could chase that had kind of a unique mechanic attached to it. Where overpower sits now is that I really like the idea of it. I think is really cool, which is it rewards you for building a really tanky character, and you get a big hit of damage. That's really, really awesome. It also scales off of your max health and then the current health percent that you have at the time, and then also scales with Fortify. So normally these stats aren't things that you want to scale to kill things, right? So we were trying to add another avenue, a vector to do that. And then the other thing that's unique about overpower and how we didn't want it to just turn into critical strike chance and damage like a lot of mechanics can be, is that you have a baseline low percent to do it, right? It's 3% across everything, and you can never increase that baseline percent ever, and that
which
is
is why nobody uses it.
And then the idea is that
many.
You can, however, get guaranteed overpowers by doing certain mechanics. So the Druid has some, the Necromancer has some, where it's like, hey, you do this thing, and the next one is guaranteed. So you can still play around it, but unlike crit, where you're chasing the random chance to get higher and higher and higher to get those procs, overpower just naturally happens kind of rarely, and then the builds that can use it get it guaranteed. And then that you have different vectors and avenues to scale it. The problem right now with overpower really is not necessarily an overpower problem, but it's really the crit vulnerable problem of these other things that scale multiplicatively just overshadow overpower in the same way that even dot damage is very much a lot of times overshadowed too. And so when we're looking at our revamp, the dream and the goal and the utopia we're moving towards is all of these vectors, and not even just overpower, but there's some other ones that I know I'm thinking of that I can't, like those legendary affixes that spawn stuff is another example.
Oh, sure, yes. Yeah.
Like we want, when we give you a fantasy as a player, whether it's baseline or via legendaries and uniques, that you're able to build that into the late game and it's delivered on, and you can actually scale and be just as good as anybody else. That's the goal. That will always be the goal that we move towards. We're not there yet, obviously, but that's kind of the intent. Is overpower is another stat that you can actually chase meaningfully via lots of other stats too that it combines with to make a build, and that's kind of the point.
Awesome. And then this is a question that I know everyone talks about. I don't know if this group up here can fully answer it, but it's something that we can follow up on, which is the zooming in and zooming out on your character, getting a wider look of gameplay and so forth.
Zoom out
I know
further.
obviously there's like performance implications to that because it increases the draw distance and so forth, and we have a ton of different platforms, so it has to be evaluated in any type of way if we were to make that type of change. Because even when it does zoom out on bosses and so forth, there's like some resolution or scaling and so forth that kind of occurs there. That's please don't kill me, engineers, if I'm saying that wrong. Maybe that's another topic we can bring up during like another campfire chat with engineers, possibly to maybe clarify a little bit on that or so. Or
Needs
we
to
can
be
just
zoomed
follow
out a little bit.
separately after the campfire chat. But I know that's a question that a lot of people have been asking. And then there's questions regarding are there any additional options for customization down the road that you guys are looking at, like pets or wings, etc. I know it's something that we're looking at and evaluating, just depending on like player feedback. Right now, we're very focused on, obviously creating more content for players to play through at the moment, more so than some of the cosmetic pieces and so forth. But it is something I know that players have been asking for.
Yeah, we want to add more stuff like that. That stuff is really fun to add. But we felt that right now what was really important is helping sorcerers, helping barbarians, and some of these other buffs to classes.
And I think there's, we'll do this one last question here before we end the stream, but one thing that people have been asking about is like all the changes that they're seeing today, is this like encapsulating everything that we're doing? We had a question in here regarding, like, for instance, someone enjoyed playing a frozen orb sorcerer in like Diablo 2, for instance, and wanting to have that same type of fantasy in Diablo 4. Do you guys plan on doing additional adjustments in the future regarding other builds or other, like creating variability across that?
Sure, no, absolutely. This patch, I talked a little bit about like we have our short-term goals and long-term things.
I absolutely endorse that, Snowprone.
Long-term, really, infinitely long-term is the idea that, every fantasy that we sell you, and I could talk a lot about, I talk to the team about this all the time. Like,
and by sell, we
sell is probably the bad word. But I think that we're
advertising it. Like if you see it on legendary aspects,
that's really what I mean.
You see it on passives, you see it on skill tags. Like we're saying, like, hey.
Yeah, there was no answer on the field of view. Yeah, which pretty much they're like, that's pretty much like a no, not at this time.
You see right away, just when you see your basic skills, like, hey, there's a bone thing, a shadow thing, and a blood thing, right? And then there's army stuff. All of those things should be delivered on and be awesome. And then as you go through the game, when you get legendaries and uniques, you should unlock, one, double down and make those things really cool, and two, unlock more things that are awesome. And what our goal always is that all of these things are awesome and cool. When we find something that isn't hitting the mark, we either buff it or redesign it in such a way that it's hitting the mark and it's attractive and ideally really fun and exciting for players to chase. Like that's always what we're going to be trying to do. Yeah. This isn't exhaustive forever. We are always going to be adapting and updating things. And if something just really isn't working, even if it's like something that I made, I have no hubris about like, hey, that thing, it was awful. Make it something good, right? Like at the end of the day, the players are the ultimate judge, jury, and executioner for us of like, did it work? Is it good? Is it fun? Yes or no? If not, then we have to.
Anyone who jumped in, they said the patch notes are going to be on the 2nd. The patch is going to be live on the 8th of August.
What kind of aspects are they wearing? What kind of uniques are they using? Like, and we can say, so like we know when like if no one's equipping a particular aspect, like we can see that, but like, okay, well that's clearly something we're going to want to rework or update or buff or do something with, right? Like this, to Adam's point, it is a never-ending process. We keep talking about how, we're all here trying to make Diablo 4 the very best game that it can be. And the reality is this is through iterations of the conversation with the community and also looking at this kind of data.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we have a ton of changes here coming up for 1.1.1 that you guys got to see here, especially for class changes. Thanks, Adam, for kind of walking us through everything.
Yeah.
And we do have final patch notes coming next Wednesday. That is August 2nd. So just a reminder on that. Revealed full, where people can read through them and provide full feedback and so forth. And then, of course, that's my tick. Someone called out my tick earlier, and so forth. Stop it, Adam. That's my tick. I will stop that one day. I probably won't. But we actually do have our patch for 1.1.1. The date will be on August 8th as well. So players can expect patch notes next Wednesday, and then of course 1.1.1 hitting on August 8th, which is Tuesday. So looking forward to seeing everyone's feedback, everyone jumping in, and checking out, of course, the new changes coming to pretty much every class now, and in regards to balance changes and so forth. Oh, I did it again.
And so forth.
Now I'm just stuck in this like my own empty room saying it over and over. But anyways.
And get us feedback on how this went, like and how you like this format for talking about patch notes.
Exactly. Yeah, we want to see if this worked out really well with the community. So yeah, please provide feedback. Us going through the notes and, of course, releasing the notes afterwards, it's a huge help for us and how to communicate with you guys out in the community. So thank you guys again. We hope you enjoyed this Campfire Chat ++, new game ++.
Sure.
And we will see you on our next stream, which we haven't announced on. We're thinking about doing some Campfire Chats with like maybe other teams here, whether it's our art, animation teams, audio teams, and so forth, just so you guys can see kind of a deeper look into some of the development within our seasons and Diablo 4 from other people. So we do plan on expanding these a little bit more, and of course, having Campfire Chats and dev update streams to talk more about the game, gameplay, and design, and so forth.
You did it again.
Thanks. I hope you guys have a great weekend. Thank you again from the Diablo 4 team here at Blizzard, and yeah, have a great Friday.
Thanks, everybody.
Alrighty, well, where we went the volume at? Right about here. So, a lot going on there. Sorry, I know I wasn't reading a ton of comments. You know, to say it's a fine line, it's an understatement. Like, where do I want to interject or answer a question real quick? But we want to hear what they're saying, obviously. So, let's see. Obviously, there wasn't really an answer. Field of view. If there's not an answer, then they're not. Field of view isn't really on the radar yet. Eliminating some of the Nightmare Dungeon affixes is probably the most important, huh? That out of the stuff that, I mean, the buffs, Chain Lightning looks like it's gonna be good too, right? There's quite a few little things like that, huh? I'm gonna go ahead and raise my desk up real quick. Sorry, I don't know how this sounds exactly. I guess if I'm not talking, you can't hear it, huh? Oh, my legs! I did leg day today at the gym. Real rough. I got a standing desk that goes up and down, so. It'll be here in just a second. There we are. Grab my foot pad. Come on, you schmucky foot pad. Gosh. We'll get some tunage going here. And why is that here? How much for squats? No, I'm not very strong. I said I went to the gym. I didn't say I lifted a lot. Get out of here. Oh no. Oh no. Point the camera down a little bit. Getting my basement rafters in the picture. So, oh, I turned the camera a little bit too great. Whoop. Power fill. I wouldn't go that far. So there's a few good things in here. I'm not sure about the buffs. I'm always real hard telling, like, oh yeah, if they raise this from 10% to 12%, how much is that helping? If they raise this from, you know, even the one thing they raised, I don't remember what it was, but it was 12% to 70%. So could go back and look, I suppose, whatever, but the bar's too heavy for Phil. I wouldn't go that far. I took some time off from the gym just recently or whatever because I had the vacation and the Season 1 launch and blah, blah, blah. So, but yeah, I guess I'll fire up some D4 here and we can kind of chit chat. I can read some comments. Sorry, I was, like I said before, doing my best to read comments, but a bunch of people asked me about, Path of Exile, huh? Or not Baldur's Gates. I mean, I don't really have any plans. I've never played Baldur's Gate before. So, didn't have no plans for that. We'll fire this up and just diddle around a little bit. We got 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock. Let's go ahead and get the right scene. They should fix the lag. Yeah, really, the only issues I have anymore is going through portals. Going through portals is real rough, for whatever reason. But yeah, I did do legs at the gym, and of course, because I don't go enough, I'm like sore pretty much, and blah, blah, blah. You know how it is, I suppose. Plus, I'm old. You guys got to remember how old I am. Yes, no pro. Portals and home telly, the worst, yeah. For sure they are, for sure they are. This here. What do we got going on? Is there a world boss right now? We got a Helltide? No. Disappointing. There's no, what you call it in here, huh? 1 minute left. Let's go get it, fellas. How many, what you call it? How many, mystery chests do you think I can get in 1 minute? Over, under, 2. I'm, 36 years old. Yeah, a few people, the chain lightning one is probably the hugest one, because now it, what was it? It deals damage every time it ricochets, and also, was it, oh, there was an aspect that every time it ricochets, you get resource, instead of every time it ricochets off of you. So that's kind of a huge change, right? I gotta go get my tunes going. It's way too quiet in here. Way too quiet. My apologies, fellas. Hopefully, this isn't way too loud. Why is my guy... I used to have my music guy pinned in here. Now it's gone. I gotta figure it out. This might be super loud, huh? Fairly super loud. I think this will end up good. Right about here. That's probably good on the tunage. Alright, I think I'm just gonna do, what do I got? I think I might just do some Tree of Whispers. This is kind of easy, casual, whatever, right? Mega cash or whatever. Feel looking good for his age, don't be hating. Creeping up on 40, fellas. Thought I was in my late 50s, choker. Come on. No way. I don't look late 50s. I think I look exactly my age. I don't look younger, I don't look older, so... Alright, so what's if the comments are super long, you know, too many sentences, it's hard for me to read, but just real short, what do you guys think of any of that? What do you guys think is like your best change or the worst thing they didn't touch on? What do you think? I'm surprised that Chain Lightning got what I think is actually a little bit of a boost. Temerity got changed to get better. Those unique, those Greaves or boots? I can't remember. I got them somewhere. Oh, did I go to the wrong town? I did. Oh, let's ride the horse there. The no more mana burn. Yeah, there I go running around the barrier with my horse. Yeah. Yeah, getting rid of mana burn. So temporary mana burn and cold enchant are now gone. So that's cool. No companion fixes. Yeah, I got you on that one. I'm not too much of a companion guy, but I get it for sure. So this is my current shred druid. It's I just instantly CC'd. These cold guys hurt me the most, huh? Not used to this angle. I haven't actually stood up on my desk in a hot minute, to be honest. What about the ghost archers? Oh yeah, I don't really like those guys, right? This is true, ghost archers. I feel like I'm like blowing my mind right now. Yeah, let's see. What exactly did they do for the minions again? I can't fully remember, but I thought they didn't do a whole lot to fix minions, but they talked about doing a whole lot, right? Or doing some, I should say. Hard to remember sometimes, everything. They take less damage. Oh, yeah. They did do some... They're going to be taking less damage from bosses and stuff, right? That's kind of what it was at. The world bosses and other boss stuff. It's gone. What do we need to do here? We gotta slay spiders. We got enough to put in the orifice. So that's good. It's always good having enough to put in that orifice, so. Yeah, I think I gotta kill spiders, so I don't need to get those guys. And like I said, a lot of people probably weren't in here right off the get-go. I wasn't really sure what they what was gonna come for sure, like fully. So they did a lot of stuff to the Barbarian and the Sorceress. So chain lightning's a thing again, right? Boy, see, and I've been using Claw too for some other reasons, but I'm surprised that they're boosting up the resource gain from everything, like, and Claw got the lowest resource like boost, only 1 point. Everything else got 2 or 3 of the basic skills. Disappointing. I wonder kind of why that is too, huh? Not like Claw was being used by everybody. Or was everybody using Claw and I didn't notice? Damage from elites and minions was reduced too, to the minions and stuff. Elites to minions, gotcha. Elise Schaefer said you sad you didn't get here quicker. Yeah, there'll be the full patch notes in a few days, or I guess you could always rewind if you wanted to. But I would say there wasn't anything crazy game breaking in there or anything like that, but a lot hits faster. Yeah, that's actually why I use it, Jeremy. So good point, but I still want them to buff what I'm using, I guess, to get more resource anyways. Not even damage, just more resource. Yeah, and you have the what you call it. There's the one bonus on it that attacks 15% faster and then double attacks, so you get a lot more attacks out of it. But that's the only reason to use it though, because like if it doesn't have that, now this is gonna get this is going from 11 to 12. This is going from Storm Strike's going from 14 to 16, I think it was. So it's getting even more, even though it attacks slower. You get damage reduction, chance to immobilize, and 50% chance to make vulnerable. And down here you get less resource now. Like, I don't know. I feel like that's a rip, right? They didn't say anything about the stash tabs, at least, so didn't make nothing about that. Ferocious says a great stream, you should watch more often. Yeah, that'd be awesome if you did. Welcome in. That'd be awesome. Glad you liked the stream, dude. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Bearline having a fun. Wait. Just having hard time having fun in this game anymore. Ran a couple of the level 80s in Eternal, level 67 Rogue in Season 1. I getcha. I did about the same. I don't know, it's hard for me to judge because everyone's opinion is different, right? For me personally, I hate leveling. Like, I get it, like right at the beginning of the season, you do this, you do that, but so much of this game is like leveling. Like, that's the whole point of the game, is to level, right? And I know that's not it. It's never like no part of ARPGs like this, but I just, even in D2, the leveling portion, I just grind past it. I get to a point, the furthest point that I need to be able to go like magic find and find good gear, and then boom, like now I'm where I want to be. But on here, there isn't that, because you can't really magic find on here. It's just randomly, it's just run around and randomly hope something drops, right? Yeah, I know certain monsters technically have some sort of better chance to find an item, but a base item, but I haven't had any luck with any of that kind of thing yet. And also, just not being able to trade makes that worse too, right? So. Who came up with the idea to... Yeah, it is incredibly strange, the whole... all your stash tabs load for everybody in your area That must have been the only way that they could make like this work. This must have been literally the only way that they could make so you can inspect people's gear. Must have been the only way, or something. Why would you even need to load anyone in your area's stash? Because you can't do anything with it. You can't trade for it, right? Like, it makes no point why it's like that, but I don't know. One bad day says the Uber uniques and the whole leveling. Not a big fan of. All right, well, yeah, Uber uniques. I don't know. It's so hard to say. Which part? I don't know which part, because the Uber uniques, I guess I don't like either. They're so rare, but like in D2, the thing is you know where to find them, right? Like, at least if you knew, like, doing this is the best chance to find it. But there's not really any, you know, do hell tides, I guess, like, and since there's no trading, you know, you never, like, even in Diablo 2 Resurrected, like, I've only found one Death's Web in my entire life, right? I've only found one Mangsong's Lesson in my entire life. I've found 2 Griffin's Eyes in my entire life. That's not a bad thing if you can trade for stuff. The thing is I'm listing off a bunch of different items, right? And if I found one, I found other stuff. I found runes you can trade for the stuff you need, but there's no trading. So that makes the uber unique items become like worthless if you can't trade for them. And I don't think, and finding those super uber rare items in D2, I think that's awesome, but you can't make the whole game like that, right? Yeah, the thing isn't, and I know people say they're way too rare. I don't know where everybody got this number of that it would take 2,000 years to find it. And I'm not saying it's wrong. I just don't know where that number came from. And so I'm not necessarily trusting it. Because imagine people saying the same thing about Tyrael's Might, you know, like, personally, I'm glad Tyrael's Might is so rare because of being able to chase it. I'm just saying I don't know where everyone got that, because nobody knows the actual drop rates on items, right? Because those are server side. Yeah, Dota enjoys it. He's never found a Zod in D2. Yeah, I found my first Zod about a year ago. So maybe a year and a half or something. Tyrael's is super rare, kind of useless. Nobody uses it though. Yeah, that's kind of a. It is super rare. It's just kind of a chase item, and nobody does use it. You're right, but that's chasing items is my go-to, right? So. All right, yeah, here's where we need to go. Make sure I'm in the right spot here. Okay. Oh, he must put the stuff in and kind of completed. Walked in halfway through. The way I like to do it. Hellspawn said he wishes they would add Indaro and Duriel as random encounters. As random encounters. I wish they would be in there somewhere so you could fight them, right? I wish there would be somewhere. Not sure about the random encounter idea necessarily. Not saying I'm against it necessarily either, but. Well, these are pretty close. Those are pretty close. Yeah, they do have to be the 85 higher or whatever, but yeah, but I just mean like, you know, like you look up on Silas-Bin's drop odds calculator for D2. You look that up, boom, you know the drop odds, this and that. And the thing is too, with no trading, you don't see, like, there's so many people that don't know things about the game that might even find some of this stuff occasionally, and you just don't know about it because it never goes up on Tradery or anything, you know what I mean? They never even look up to see if it's rare or not, because who cares? If they can't use it or don't want to use it, it's like, why even look up if it's worth any, or if it's any good, if it's not worth anything to trade, right? You just look at these super unique rares and you're like, it doesn't have vulnerable or crit damage on it. That's garbage. Throw it away. Or, you know, I'm not saying that's necessarily 100% what's happening, but, you know, without knowing any drop odds on anything, it's real hard to say it, I feel. Oh, I thought I was going to get him. Oh, with that last swing, I thought I was going to get him. Let's see. Manshow says there was a data mine thing. There might be a data mine thing that I didn't see, so. Yeah, those numbers that you're spitting out, like 1 in 2,000 or whatever, if that's I wonder what the actual numbers is. I'd have to find it, because I looked all this stuff up, drop odds for Shaco and this and that, and I just Googled it. I mean, some exhaustive search, you know, but nothing popped up on Google when I searched it, so I figured something about a data mine would pop up, right? That's what I assumed anyways, but I didn't see nothing. Freedom says game feels underdeveloped. It feels a little rushed, I'm not gonna lie. It does feel a little bit on the rush side. And not an excuse, but that is every game nowadays. I'm not saying that's good in any way, or that anyone has to accept it, or anything like that. Just is a fact. Elise said, yeah, Rax did a 500,000 calculation thing. Yeah, that's the thing. When I looked it up, and I mean, I just looked on YouTube and Google and stuff, I didn't find anything about it on YouTube or on Google or on anything. So wherever Rax got the numbers, you know, I would love to see it, I suppose. Yeah, I mean, in some random, Juan says, some, you know, in random Discords or Reddit pages and stuff. Yeah, I'm never gonna see that. I'm like a normie, so I'm just some normie. Guess I'm not in the inner workings of the dark interweb or whatever. Oh man, I didn't pay attention to the time and it switched right before I completed it. Unreal. This guy. Chicho, what's going on? Yo, having a pretty good day. Hopefully you are as well. Rax is a number guy. Yeah, he is definitely tester number guy. I just want to see this data mine stuff so I can really actually, like, even if I seen Rax, because if Rax had a video where he said these were the numbers that he's seen on the data mine, and I would just believe him that it was true, but I haven't seen any of that either. I didn't see him do a video on it or anything, so. Could be wrong that I just didn't see it, you know? Totally possible. I'm just saying, I just want to see this stuff. You said he did do a video? Yeah, I didn't see it. I'm subscribed up to him and all that good stuff, so I know he is really like into numbers guy stuff. So I get you. But yeah, couldn't find anything about it. Person. What's the seasonal plans and when are you planning on dropping back to D2R to Steppus? No plans on dropping back to D2R. No timed plan, I should say. I don't have a date set. But I do kind of feel an itch for playing some D2 though, I'm gonna be honest. I don't know if I'm gonna do like a 1 day, maybe like 1 day back to D2, like maybe I could do 1 day on D2 and then a couple days on D4 or something. I had a thought about that. Is that guy dead yet? Keep one adventure alive. Fat chance. I can't get any resource. I would keep him alive, but I can't attack with my good skills. I need this ring fill. I must have missed, Willow, what you were speaking of. Alright, here we go. I can't even resurrect myself. Okay, there we go. Oops. On death effects. Hunter Zenith. I feel like I found that before. Not on. I don't know exactly what it is. I could just be getting the names wrong. I thought I had found that on a different character, but that might not be accurate. Chat's fault. No doubt that's chat's fault. Oh, I forget you can do this now. I still forget. Reticulated said adding a bunch of other people like Fisto and Leoric, Azul, all those kind of peeps. But yeah, I mean, they might be down the road, I would assume, almost, huh? Boy, that was unfortunate that I did that, huh? D4, we hunting for legendary Shaco hats today, says Fred. Yeah, not me, I'm not high enough level, but hopefully you guys get it. Saturday, D2R grailing. Yeah, I thought about doing something like that. Maybe. Allegedly. Gotta go for the legendary one, right? Almost getting to that next Paragon board. Ooh, we got some pants. Oh, and gloves. Oh, no. Anything good? Lightning Storm, Tornado. I don't use either of those. Aspect. Meh. Not worth really keeping. This bubble one's actually useful like when you're early on, but I feel like it's kind of a waste of a slot when you get later game. Oopsie. It's a regular legendary pants, so it's like, what pants do I got on here? I got some sacreds, but they're barely higher on the defense. Not really anything I need. Dread pole. No. You haven't had a legendary cash reward this season? That's probably my third one, to be honest. I'm not sure how I think it's just random, but that's like my third one, like just in the last 3 days, probably 2 or 3 days. Did I want to do it? Yeah. Need more reviews. And actually, superior leathers, shockingly enough, have been kind of a short spot for me. Bill's hit a dungeon here. Let's hit a resource burn one just for fun before it. No, I was joking. Lightning Storm, let's go. Suppressor. Suppressor doesn't matter too much because that hits the the ranged people, right? Triple up on this dungeon right here. We get the Renown, we get the Aspect if I ever do a Sorceress, anyways, and the Nightmare Dungeon stuff. Let's go. can't upgrade your dungeons to grind better gear. I did see someone comment a while ago saying they only got level 1 dungeons. You can craft dungeons that are higher level, if you didn't know that. But yeah, so far, like all the ones I've ran, I've got 2s, because I just got, you know, I'm level 53, so it's all 1s and 2s. I could go over to the occultist. You can craft up higher ones, so you have to beat a world tier 3 dungeon. Yeah, someone said you just had to be over level, what? I think someone said 53 or 54. That's what someone told me, because I was kind of confused about it at first too, because I kind of forgot. But I'll use that one, I guess. 50 to 60 is kind of slow. It is kind of slow, yeah. That is kind of, it is kind of the weak spot of the game. 50 to 60 is kind of, ugh. Once you get to world tier 4 and you start slapping a little bit, it starts getting a little bit more fun on that. I do agree with that, Fred. Oops. Didn't put my hurricane on accident. Man, I slapped these ghouls, huh? They're the weakest monster in the game. Hit my puppy. Get out of here. Fire explosions. You have to clear a tier 3 to craft. Interesting. I guess what the people told me the other day was wrong. This just, what did I run here? Oh, so this is a tier 3 I just got, apparently. I thought this was just a tier 2. I didn't notice that. So I guess I'm going to be able to craft here in a second, huh? But this Druid's quite, I mean, with the exception of chat killing me in that other dungeon, Druid's quite the tank, huh? My health and fortified never drop, like, at all, unless I get one-shotted by some random on-death effects, huh? Seasonal. Yeah, this is in season. Yeah. Yep. Ah. See what we got for this armor, huh? Not bad. I do like that one, because with this build, before you get an endgame, you're bouncing back and forth between your basic skill all the time. I don't know if you guys noticed, but I'm using them back and forth. They look almost the same. So really, this 20% damage reduction can kind of help out quite a bit here and there. Got a new printer last night? Nice. I've never heard a cooler thing in my entire life. New printer. Well, right there I was losing a bit of health. Okay, all that poison damage. Alright, why don't you guys come over here? Get out of that poison. Alright, that'll work. Willow beat the Butcher the first time you got to fight him. Nice, nice. Congrats on that one. You get anything cool down here? I never check this thing. I always forget if I get anything, and not high enough level. Oh well. What was the other thing? Oh, chapter 4 complete. Look at that. I didn't even know. What did I even do to do this? I don't even know what I completed to finish it. Whatever. We get anything good in here? Not really. Lightning storm. Gross. Cash. Claim the stuff, I suppose. See what the cash gives you. Alright. One of the gray hearts. Damage over time effects are increased 40% for each different crowd control effect on the target. Unstoppable monsters. Okay, interesting. I don't know. Not really that cool, I guess. I don't know. No good stuff. No good. Make Diablo great again. I mean, that's borderline political. So, well, we steer clear of anything politics in here at all costs, essentially. So I'd just say steer clear of that, I guess. Oops. Oh no, I didn't decide what board I actually wanted to use. First here. Axe Spirit, Spirit on Kill. May want to go with this one first. I would forget. Where is it at? Here? Over here? Yeah. Well, it's all max Spirit on Kill. Max Spirit on Kill. Yeah. This is one that oh, I did not mean to do that, you dummy. Good shot, Phil. I meant to go I meant to rotate it. So we get this right here. I mean, maybe we'll hop over to that, I guess. It's not very far. But it's almost one, the connector is way up here. That's not great. It's almost one that I want to connect and get this and use it for a while and then respec out of this board and put a different board here that has a closer connection that I can just go like this and then connect this one to the side. Uncontroversial Phil strikes again. Well, yeah, I mean, because if somebody says the wrong word, like half the chat leaves, so because everyone's so butthurt today nowadays, so I gotta make sure nobody says anything. If I eat the wrong food or tell everybody I went to the wrong store, everybody leaves. So I gotta just how the life is nowadays, huh? Just how everything is. He said, "But leave." Right? Yeah. You shopped at what store? I'm out of here. Oh god. Sorry, bro. But anyways, enough about that. Enough about that. That's too much negativity for Phil's stream already. We don't be negative on Phil's stream, right? This is a fun place for everybody. Fun. No problem. At least. This game. Oop, I looked over. I thought I died for a second. I seen a lot of red on the screen. Oh, let's fire. I'm gonna catch ya. Zog says this game is a good for a playthrough or two, but the lack of replayability will inevitably kill the game. Yeah, I don't know, because they are going to be adding stuff in, and that's the whole point of, I mean, I don't want to say the whole point of why it doesn't have more right now, but I feel like they're like, here's a plan for all this stuff we think would be super cool, and here's part of it, and then the rest of it, there's going to be the other good ideas that they had, in their opinion, in the expansion, and then more good ideas in the second expansion, and some stuff coming with the seasonal content and stuff. So I'm not saying that's good or bad, but that seems to be my understanding of how things are and why they're the way that they are. Eric, you ain't wrong. You are not wrong. And the game would be 10 out of 10 if they had ogre axes, for sure. For sure. Oh, mushroom's about to blow up on me. Thanks, mushroom. Can they remove exploding mushrooms, please? Good God. Really, now I gotta watch out for mushrooms in the corner. They're gonna blow up. I mean, they've always been there, but I just... Still. You get what I mean. Floating mushrooms in the corners? Come on. Tradable ogre axes. Infinite replayability. Instantaneously, huh? I can't... I mean, your logic is impeccable. I can't... There's nothing I could you know, argue against that. PoE devs sleep pretty good at night. Yeah, I mean, everyone loves PoE, right? It sounds like. Never had the time, or never took the time, I should say, to play Path of Exile. Oh. Dang it, I don't want to pick up stupid blue. Always heard it was super, super complicated, and it was kind of, I know you can look up guides and stuff super easy, but just never... Like, the reason that I like playing D2 is because I don't have to relearn a ton of stuff all the time, right? I don't have to learn all this new stuff. I know I'm not like everybody else. Everyone likes new, changing things all the time, but I'm anyone who doesn't know this from me being on D2, I'm affectionately known as anti-change guy, so... I wish I could go back and find my reaction when they announced all those changes to D2R. I was trying to hold it together, but I was not happy. CJ says PoE is good if you have a time to read someone's PhD thesis on a build guide. Yeah, nope. I don't have that time. I don't have that time. Between taking the daughter to the dentist and baseball on Tuesdays and Thursdays and the bowling league on Wednesdays, and obviously I have to, do other things. Regular stuff. So get this. Here's another good thing I have to do now. We have these giant black ground wasps that are apparently burrowing, their nests into the ground in cracks in my driveway. And the driveway's old, so some of the sealant between the seams is like separating, and they're going between that and digging, so that we have all these giant, they're literally like 1.5 inch, 2 inch long, like wasps. Not kidding. They look like the alien from the Alien movies. And there's multiple, I think there's either 2 nests or one that's so big that their 2 entrances are 15 to 20 feet apart in my driveway. So now I gotta kill them and then reseal my driveway, whatever you call it. Freaking great, right? Freaking great. Super stoked about that. But is what it is. Life, 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 life! Oh, yeah, actually I do want to go there. D2R change just made him pull him out. No. That's not bad. Just genetics. You can't have everything, right? I mean, I'm this good looking, and it's like, come on, the guy can't have everything, Obviously a joke, right, fellas? Oh, I probably have to answer this phone call. I think my daughter might be getting dropped off here in a second. Text message, I mean. Could you open the garage? Oopsie. Hold on, I'll be right back. I just dived into the desk on accident. Oopsie. How long ago was that? I didn't even look to see if they were here. 1 minute ago, so we're fine. We're fine. That was a text from 1 minute ago. I'm good. Hopefully they're still here. I don't know what happened. So regular rares. Did they leave? I'm about to get in trouble, fellas. None of those I want. I realized everything I picked up was just all regular rare stuff. All trash. Just trash. Let's see there. Iron chunks. Only 5 silvers out of that the whole thing right there. Jeez. Pouring molten lava. I have seen stuff like that. Not the wasp, but like what, the ant hills and stuff, right? What am I gonna do? Jeez, I got too many. I gotta scrap some of these hearts. We'll look at this some other time. Future Phil can worry about that. Future Phil. What time we got here? Oh, it's almost 4 o'clock. Oh boy, time's flying. I actually gotta go. I didn't realize it was so late. I've been on here 2 hours already. Wasn't planning on being here for 2 hours, but a little playing, little chatting, campfire thing, and everything was too much fun, right? Too much entertainment right there, right? So I'm gonna have to take off, fellas, ladies and gentlemen. So hopefully I catch you. I don't know when I'll stream again. Probably sometime over the weekend. I do have a D2 video coming out a little bit later today. I just got to make the thumbnail and upload and all that good stuff. So it should be cool. Just before we go, I do got to get mega shout out channel members, Twitch subs, anyone that's on the Patreon too. I do have a Patreon that you know, $1 a month Patreon over there too. There is a 5 and 10 and stuff like that tier, but yeah. Plus channel membership only $2.99. You get a green name on my channel with the icon, so I see you all the time. 1 free super chat a month comes with that too. That monthly membership, you get 1 free super chat. It's a deal of the century, fellas, ladies and gentlemen. Deal of the century. But anyways, with that being said, peace out, fellas, and don't forget, keep slaying.